And welcome everybody to another Saturday night live stream. Tonight we're joined by Gary and
Hello.
Gary Matthews. And in addition to Gary, we're going to be talking tonight mostly about ways that you can make extra income. So we're looking at side hustles. We're looking at multiple income streams. Gary has definitely had a lot of interesting methods of making money over the years, and he's going to share a lot of that with us tonight. So without any further ado, Gary, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Candace. I'm so excited to be on the show. Definitely for sitting in the background, listening, watching, seeing. I think I've been at your first show, maybe your second, your third, probably skipped the fourth. Went back, watched it a week later, came back in and watched it again. And I've been away for a little bit. I took a week and a bit off just to regroup, rethink. It's been a little crazy roller coaster in the last few weeks, I think, especially from where you are out in Ottawa. I can only imagine,
Yes.
How it's been, Candace. How's the group doing? How's everybody doing tonight?
I think everybody's doing pretty good. Let's get this started while people are rolling in. A lot of people know you already. Why don't you just give us a little bit about your background? So for people who don't know you, who are you?
Well, I'm originally from Toronto, born and raised here. We spent most of my life up in a little small division of Toronto called Scarborough. Believe it or not, my great uncle, I would say grandfather. Let me clear that up again. My grandfather, my grandparents had remarried. I come from a lot of separations throughout I've known from my grandparents to my uncles to my aunts, everyone in my life, including my own parents, were separated at a young age. Well, my grandmother had remarried, and he owned a plot. So he owned 3/4 of Scarborough, and we built a community called Malvern. So we built Malvern back in the early 70s. I moved in there, was born a little bit at the end of the 70s. So I won't tell you how far old I am, but I'm up there. But we got done at the end, and I grew up in that community for many, many years. Went to high school in Toronto as well, and that got to a certain point where I was actually, here's to scare all of you people, but I was dethroned and asked to leave my home at 17 years old and to come back. Only just a few years after that, I ended up losing my parents and losing a lot of people in my life. And I spent unfortunately, I'm going to say, I can't say months, but it felt like it was definitely a month or two. I spent living in the backseat of my car. I did have a job. I've been working and employed since I was 14 years old. I worked for various different companies. So my family owned a publicly traded printing factory. And before it was dissolved, I ended up working there throughout my entire high school era, raised and saved every dollar that I owned because I wasn't able to have the assets until I turned to a certain age, and then they were given to me. So my first purchase, no shocking everybody, my first purchase is to be able to get my license to get a car for the first time. And that didn't realize, but that was my home for a little bit of time. So I worked in a printing factory out in Richmond Hill before it dissolved. That company ended up dissolving. But interesting fact is that I've never had, still today, I've never had a job interview.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Never had one. So throughout my career, I lived in the back of this warehouse or back to the parking lot, and the forklift driver would be able to maneuver some of the paper material inside this facility. I worked in Richmond Hill so that I could sleep indoors throughout a couple of the weeks as well. He used to bury me and hide me in a little spot, and then would come up and wake me up and say, "Hey, it's time for your shift." They had shower facilities, they had a food and a catering place, and we had to wear a uniform. So we had clothing, 5 days a week, and I would do as many hours and many shifts as possible. They would allow me to do so. From there, I had a buddy ask me, he says, "Hey, listen, why don't you come work at the airport with me?" And I said, "I have no idea. Sure, I know nothing about the airport. I just knew my buddy was having a great job." And I came down there, had a couple of beers with a manager, and he says, "Hey, can you start Monday?" I'm like, "Sure." Pays a lot more than what I started with. I got into there, and sure enough, from that point, I actually almost lost both my legs at that point, working in a factory. I had a forklift driver that almost clipped me in the back. From that point, I sat in the office and ended up learning how to charter aircrafts for a living. So I used to do the weight and balance for big 747s. They used to transfer back and forth around the world. From that, I received a business card from somebody else saying, hey, listen, we like your expertise. We like the work that you do. Why don't you come work for us? So I said, sure, I'll go find out what it's all about. Turns out I end up being a sales representative for a major corporation that handling all the freight forwarders around the airport community, obviously moving freight for all them for many, many years. From there, I got a phone call from a buddy, which was a customer of mine. Says, listen, we're starting an air freight department here in Toronto. Wouldn't you want to come and work for us? I'm like, yeah, I'll take a look at it. Next thing you know, a week later, I have this oval office, sixth floor overlooking the airport. The branch manager shows up, knocks on my door and says, hey, listen, congratulations. We don't know what you do. Ask us what you need. And next thing you know, I'm now moving livestock and produce around the world. Wow. It was unbelievable. I'm like, how is this continue to keep revolving? So very lucky going through the different channels. And that's for everybody. It's amazing how you don't know what you expect until it moves through. Last thing I left there, and I'll just give you real quick here. We're getting to an end here. At that point, I ended up getting a phone call from a buddy of mine. It says, listen, we know what you do. We're an air freight department. It's not going well, and we'd like you to see if you can do something with it. So I ended up taking the business from less than $1 million a year all the way up to 5.6 million a year. And from that point, I had some health conditions, and I had a very powerful father that wouldn't allow me to see my mother. And once I eventually was able to find where my mother was, it was only a few years after that she was diagnosed for cancer, and had lost her a few years after that.
Oh dear.
So it really affected my health and put me into a tailspin, shingles, the whole 9 yards. And I sat down on the couch, and I was married at the time, and said, no, I can't do this anymore. I can't take this pressure. I was traveling around the world. So I was handling an entertainment side of the industry. And also working for Bombardier on the side. So Bombardier, what I was handling for them was I was a hand carrier around North and South America. So every single day, 3 to 4 days a week, I was traveling right across Canada and all the way down to Brazil and back. And sometimes I would be in Brazil for a day or two, come back to Miami, fly back down to Peru, come back to Miami. Next year, I'm back in Toronto. I've had my passport taken away a few times along the way, just from when I'm moving and some of the cargo. But anyways, I sat down and I decided, and this is where I'd like to help everybody else. I decided to just walk into a Service Ontario location and say, hey, listen, I want to start a business. I know nothing about business. I still today don't know enough about business. I'm still learning. And I registered a company. That was the end of it.
Wow.
So I took a handful of customers that were very genuine to me and important to me. And they started out, and I said, listen, this is what I do. I'd love you to have me on board. I'd love to be able to handle your cargo and all the trucking infrastructure that comes along with that. 10 years this September, everybody. 10 years I've worked on my own. And I've been by myself for 10 full years. So I'm pretty proud about that. And that's where most of my success was, for doing something I knew just a little bit about. Wow. Now, I got a bunch of other stuff to share with all of you today, but that's my background, and that's where I originally started.
Perfect. All right. Well, before we jump in and on that a little bit further, let's just quickly say hi to the folks who are out here. So we have the friggin' Oracle into the house tonight.
First.
I know. We got Dave D.
Big Dave.
We've got Jill, of course. We have Ciso 99.
I like him. He's a pretty cool dude.
Ciso is very cool. We got Tim Carroll.
I don't know Tim.
Tim's here all the time. I love Tim. And we got our good old buddy Ford Tough.
Yeah.
And we've got Sandra B. Hi, Sandra. We've also got Bleak. And I sort of jumped over one of the
Is
Danters.
it Tim or is it Nancy? Which one is it both? Maybe it's both. Who
It's
knows?
hard to say. I'm almost thinking that this one is Nancy.
Hi, Nancy,
Maybe,
I think.
maybe,
Maybe.
because
It's one of the
normally
two.
Tim jumps on with Tim Danter and Nancy jumps on the Tim and Nancy
I
Danter.
love Nancy. Nancy's great. Oh, both. We got
Oh, it
both here
is
tonight. Look at
both.
that.
There we go. So we're probably on their TV.
Beautiful.
So
And
that's
I don't know. How's my hair then?
awesome.
How's my hair? Is my hair okay then? How's it looking?
It looks flowing. It's
Just
just
as thanks.
flowing. And then Jill said, "Congrats, Gary, on the 10 years."
Yeah, it's been an honor. It's been a roller coaster for sure. I ended up buying my first home back in 2007, and that's a stretch for anybody has the opportunity, because we can imagine now, based on in 2022, the cost of homes. We say back in the 80s. I mean, I know when my father bought his first home at $43,000, I think it was the sales price. But then what were interest rates back then? 14, 18% or something. It was something absolutely ridiculous. And now, so we ended up buying our first home in 2007. And when we bought our first home, we both worked as hard as we could to maximize it was an RRSP. Is it RRSP? RRSP.
Mhm.
And I think at that time we were only allowed to withdraw no more than 20,000. So we actually just put $40,000 down on a home, and that was it. And we got very lucky. I mean, we ended up buying in Milton, and I still reside in Milton, Ontario now. We bought Milton, which was way before Milton became what it is today, and it was just starting to grow. So we got into that market really, really low. And what I've seen myself is that if you really want to get into that market, you really got to stretch outside. I mean, I'm originally from Scarborough, or from Ajax, Ontario. We ended up moving further east, and to move to Milton, that's a far stretch. I mean, that's an hour, and for us here locally, I mean, that's an hour and 20 minutes or so, give or take. And everyone thought we were crazy. Why do you want to live so far? I'm like, because I was able to buy a house. That's why I moved so far. So that was usually my first, we couldn't afford Mississauga. We looked at Brampton and we said, no, it looks busy. We might be able to get in, but we're not going to get what we want. And so we ended up going out there, and our first home was just under $200,000 back in 2007. And then the recession hit, and that all collapsed. And that was great for us, because that's when I started to trickle into investments and trickle into doing things that I do today. But the interest rates went all the way down to $1 or 1%. Sorry, take that back. 1%.
1%.
1%. Oh, well. And we were sitting pretty on that, and we were able to pay down our principal quite quickly. And when I bought the house, and I know they do a lot of stress tests, even back then as they do today, we were able to meet all the objectives. We both had great salaries, and so we got in there. But both of us were still feeling a little discouraged. We were concerned. Do we have enough money? Are we going to be able to pay the bills? Can we live the lifestyle that we choose to? Someone always told me, buy the biggest house you can afford. And I said, yeah, but I don't want to be mortgage broke. So I'm going to buy the smallest house that I'm willing to live in. And that's what we ended up doing. And we bought what do they call it? A semi-detached.
Okay.
And everyone thought we were crazy, but we were able to live the life.
Which is very, very cool. Now, you mentioned you started your own business. What were the challenges coming into that? I know that you mentioned you didn't really know a lot about it when you started.
I didn't. I didn't even know how to compare an invoice. I didn't even know how to make a credit app. I had customers asking me, says, can you send us your licenses and registrations and all your information? I'm like, I don't even know what any of this is. And a lot of it helped through Google. And a lot of it actually helped from friends and family as well. Say, hey, listen, I started a business I know nothing about. I think I can do this. But a lot of it was built on trust. I had one legitimate customer that trusts me with everything that they had. And they decided to say, listen, we're going to trust you. And that's all it was. One customer, one person. And from that, I had taken that and made sure I said, listen, I'm going to massage and work as hard as I can for this one particular customer, and use that leverage to be able to now dispatch out to others. And I knew with my background and my history, I was able to make some phone calls. I was able to talk to people and say, listen, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a new in business. Wrote a very basic letter based on the same thing, telling you exactly who I am. And you put a lot of heart into that. And from there, people started to put a little bit of trust in me, but I would only take what I was able to handle. And I would never take more than I couldn't do. My goal in life through high school was to be able to own and operate my own company some way, somehow. Now, I did have a couple of staff for a little bit of time because I started a few other companies along the way. So I ended up getting involved with an entertainment company. One of the most successful things that I built today. I had a buddy of mine in Chicago that I was doing some business with, which started through my particular business. And he reached out to me and says, listen, we'd love you to handle some of our freight, but how would you like to own our Canadian division of it? So I reinvested, took a massive loan out, reinvested into that company and started that licensing here. And we built that business through major rock in the rock industry. Some big names that some of you have already heard, from Linkin Park to Stone Temple Pilots to Nickelback. And we did everybody in between there as well. And worked on that for about 18 months until I realized that it was starting to affect my family. It was starting to affect my lifestyle. It was starting to affect my children. It was starting to affect me not being home all the time. And you got to weigh those options when you start a company.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
How much are you willing to give? Because owning and operating a business, that some of you I know in this room here do have a couple of companies or have had companies that they hold. It's a lot of stress and it's a lot of effort. There's a lot of late nights. There's a lot of early mornings. You don't get vacation. Let's take that away. You don't get these public holidays. I'm taking family day today because I can afford it, but you don't get family day off. And so you have to figure that out. Now, through this, what we've been dealing with for the last, 22, 23 months, it's been a godsend because of that, because it's allowed me to be home and be a stay-home dad. So there's been benefits on the back end of that.
No, that sounds like a really good thing. Now you said you were actually running multiple companies at the same time.
Yeah. So
how are you juggling that?
To bring that's one of the biggest challenges I still face today, and I've actually gotten rid of all of them except for one. So I ended up selling my entertainment company back to the original owner, made a small profit on that, and then reinvested that back into my company, paid all its debts off. So we're a zero-based asset company. I have no employees and I own no equipment, and I'm also 100% debt free. So that's an advantage to my company as a corporation. Now, so when I bought my first home in 2007, I decided, hey, I need to make more money because I didn't think I can afford the payments. This is $200,000 at the time in 2007. It's like buying $1 million home today. It's how am I supposed to afford to pay for this? So I ended up, I had a buddy of mine that obtained an office here in Milton. He decided to operate a driving school. He was a really good personal friend of mine. Still is today. Still, we're not super close, but we understand the businesses. He said, listen, why don't you come work for me? I said, okay, but what do I need to do? He said, well, you need to get your license. Driving school. So that has to be my first hustle. And that's one of the key ones that I want to talk about today, is that I needed to find something that could fit into my everyday operation. So my business is important to me, but I knew that I was able to do this job a couple hours a day. So I had all this extra free time. What do I do with this free time? I said, well, I can't just sit at home and play golf every day. I can maybe build more of my business, or I can find another way to make a little bit of side income for my Saturday and Sundays. So I'll work Monday to Friday through my corporation and my business. And then I will start something on the side, which is another driving school. So I ended up getting my driver's instructor's license. I took the time through Humber College, obtained that. I ended up securing that in 2008. And then I had my in-class license, I think it was a year later, back in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the plaques here. So I ended up working on weekends for a couple of years. And I started to enjoy it. I started to embrace it. I started to say, wait a second. Now my trucking company is starting to be pushed to the side, and I'm having a lot more fun doing driving school. And they're sort of paying about the same now, because I went from working 2 days a week to working weekends and every evening. I didn't have kids at the time, so let's continue to keep taking advantage of it. To a point where I decided to say, you know what? I blew the whistle and said, you know what? I'm all in. I'm going to go start my own driving school.
Nice.
I don't know about that. That was a lot of work. Some of you may know here, obviously Tim has publicly announced that he has been a driver instructor before and owned and operated, I believe, schools as well. I don't want to get into too much of his information. So I ended up starting a driving school in Oakville. We did well. We stayed above float and continued with that operation for about 2.5 years until things started to get a little more difficult based on the territory I was in, and I was trying to be pushed out. I was asked by the town to be relocated. I wasn't having that. I fought back and forth with the town and ended up losing because I was as a driver instructor, you have to be in a geographical area and you can't be in that test zone. There's a couple of rules and regulations, but I was there before the test zone was there. So I thought I was grandfathered in, and I didn't have enough buying power to be able to work my way through the community and through that town. So I ended up closing the business, which turned out to be a godsend anyways, and went back to work for my buddy full time for about 3.5 years as I was still doing the trucking industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that trucking is still continued to be here today. So now I still own and operate both through one division. So in the last 24 months, I've switched all my gear into one business. And again, I'm sure Candace is going to ask, I already know it's coming, how did you figure this all out? I didn't. Mm-hmm. I just went, I had a really good accountant. Thank goodness for accounting. And I asked the accountant, I said, how do I shelf a company? How do I move a company? How do I rearrange this? Because I'm getting confused with CRA and paying my HST and the GST and all the other taxes and all that information. And I have multiple cars, and how do I write them off? And which fuel goes with which, and which gas receipt goes with which? And I had to do all these spreadsheets, and I don't have any hair left because of it.
Oh dear.
So it's been so when COVID hit, or C-19, sorry, we'll take that back. But when that keyword came in, I said, this is enough. We need to put this all into one company. And as of right now today, I do some outside consulting with a few schools with regards to commercial driver training. And I also work on my trucking side of the industry as well, very successfully. And my customers that I've had for years, I haven't grown it any bigger than I should. And I think that's a mistake for me. And that's something that I need to look into throughout 2022. But my customers have allowed me to give me the information weeks in advance. We plug it all in, I set it all up, and it's all done before I even do anything else. So now I have all this free time Monday to Friday to work on all my commercial accounts.
Which is great. Really now, Sisso asked, what was your biggest fear at the start?
Not making any money. I'll be honest. I was very, very fortunate enough to have a customer that I asked first, and I said, hey, listen, I'm thinking about going on my own. The stress is killing me, and I think I need to start something. And asked me if I asked them if they are willing to jump ship and continue with supporting me. And I knew their lanes, I knew their business. They know I knew their business. They were a customer of mine for 3-4 years through our various companies. And let me just explain here, you can't technically take customers from another company. That's purging, and there are laws. They're not laws, but there's ways around it. So I ended up stepping away, taking a few weeks off, and my customer decided to call me. I didn't call them, and they verified that with my previous customer, my previous employer, and said, listen, we called them, and we would like to work with him directly. So adios amigos. So I had it all set up prior to, so that's that's how I ended up feeling a little bit better about myself. But here's this thing, and this is what I really want to talk to all of you about, is I want everyone that's listening today, do you have a number? What's the number in the back of your head? And that's not something we need to share into the group, but what's our number? What is your number that you wish you could make year over year? That's it. That's the number. And that's what I had taken from my business. I knew I left, and I'll give you an understanding, I left a huge 6-figure income. We're near north, and I'll be honest with you, near north on almost 200,000 a year. I went down to 5 figures. I knew that I would eventually get back up to that. I knew that there was something there, but I'd be more happier. Now, I don't know. I haven't made it back to the 200K yet, but I like to just look at the number 50,000. And that's something that I want all of you to think about, because 50,000 is a pretty good solid salary. Let's be honest here. I mean, you can do quite well with 50,000. Now, have you actually broken down 50,000? Because a lot of people haven't. So anyone here in this room that thinks about, hey, maybe I can start something on my own. What is my risks? Well, how much would you like to make? And I've always taken that and gone backwards with it. So I actually wrote down 2 sets of numbers based on 50,000. And I'll tell you what I've worked on, but 50 wasn't my benchmark. I'll tell you that right now. My number was much higher than that, but I want to look at 50 because 50 looks like a very average number for most individuals. That's $137 per day. That's 7 days a week, making $137 a day. That's what you've got to figure out. Now break that down based on the hours that you're willing to put in based on what we're doing. To bring that down even further, we want to look at 5 days. It's 5 days instead of 7. It's 192, or let's just round it up. Let's say $200 a day. How do I go ahead and make $200 a day? And what do I need to do to make $200 a day? That's something serious for a lot of us to think about. So what I took back in 2000 and when did I start? Well, 10 years. What's 10 years? What's 2022? I just know it's 10 years based on the numbers that's on there. Was that 2012? Yeah, 2012. So 2012, I told myself I wanted to make $5,000 a month. That's what I wanted to make, $5,000 a month. 5,000 was a great number. If I made more than that, we're going to start moving some money around. If I make less than that, then I could take from what I made the previous months. But 5,000 is my goal. So I wrote that down here today, and I still have it on paper. That's $166 per day, or $250 per day, 5 days a week. But I never worked 5 days a week. I work 7 days a week because I'm a hustler. And that's what I needed to do. Now I don't work. Now I barely work 3 days a week. I'm going the opposite way. I want Fridays and Mondays off. But right now, let's look at the fact that you want to start a business. And that's the question. It's like, what do you need to make? So for me, it was $5,000 a month, $200, that was like $250, $166 a day. So I used to just run it up to $200 a day. Now, how am I going to make $200 a day? So as a driver instructor, let me show you an example here based on a driver instructor. I had taken a vehicle. I had to look for a vehicle that was economical, user-friendly, great on fuel. I knew that it was running me about $20 a day just to put fuel in it. I knew it was running me $8 a day to put insurance on it. And I needed special insurance to meet the requirements. Now we had a great deal because we deal with a corporate identity to that. Now my time. So I know what I was billing at the time back then. Back then, I'm probably making about $20 for every lesson I'm teaching. So how many lessons do I need to do in order to cover my bill? My trucking company was absorbing a little piece of that. So all of a sudden I move a truck shipment, one small shipment, I make $200. I'm like, so everything I did today is profit because now I can move that to the next day. So I started to do a ledger based on the value that I was making each and every day until I got to a point where I was making more than and I do pat myself on the back. I work very hard for what I have. I never had a silver spoon, everybody. I had no money given to me. There was no check written to me and says, best of luck to you. But there were days that I was making $5,000 a month, $5,000 a week and not $5,000 a month. Now you can see where things are going, but it takes the little tiny number. Go ahead, Candice, you got something to say?
No, I just wanted to redirect Tim's question. He was kind of curious about what is that one thing that you've learned from being an entrepreneur.
I didn't expect to work as the hours that I thought I was going to work. I thought it was going to be, I get to golf 6 days a week and it was going to be a party. And I found out I worked harder, longer than I've ever worked in my entire life. There is rewards on the back end of that, and I'm thankful for the awards more now than anything. But at the time, I thought this was going to be an easy walk in the cake. I'll do a job and make $1,000 and I'm good for the week. And if you don't continue to hustle or make those phone calls, that $1,000 might not be there next week.
Right.
So you got to continue to build. And second thing I've also learned from that is that I need to save some because I don't know when my next check is coming. I didn't pay myself for the first 6 months, almost 8 months. And one of the biggest mistakes in all business aspects is that you need to pay yourself. And I kept reinvesting that back into the company. Now I had taken some, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that with you guys here today, but I had taken some money from myself. So I borrowed from myself to start my company. I was able to do so from the equity from my home. So I had something to start with. It wasn't a lot, everybody. I started my business with $5,000. So I didn't borrow $100,000 from anybody. I started with $5,000, and it didn't take long for me to be able to pay that back really quickly. But then turns out more things needed to be purchased, more things need to be done, more licenses need to be covered. And so I ended up taking most of the profit I was making and putting it back to me and learning from myself and gaining expertise and things like that around. So.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Now, you also mentioned as well that you started to do investing. So when it comes to income streams, was investing starting to create a half decent income stream for you on the side?
Yeah. I have to thank a lot of it due to individuals and people and trust from individuals. I had a lot of great friends and peers and business associates around. I'm not the only one that had a side hustle, and I learned from others that said, hey, I had a question once, and a lot of you may not like this, but I had a question once, and someone sent out to me and says, hey, you ever thought of other ways to making some money? And I laughed. I remember working on a printing factory floor, and I'm like, yeah, is everybody always thinking that? Like, no, actually, people are very content to what they do. I'm like, oh, I'm not content. Do you think I want to be in the sweatshop working Monday to Friday? No, I need to do something else. And he said, come with me. And he goes, I got a presentation I'd love to show you. And sooner or later or not, I didn't know that I was being introduced to a multi-level marketing company. And a lot of you may or may not agree with multi-level marketing companies. There is a very 1% chance of people becoming to reach the top. But there are ways to look in different avenue streams of very successful multi-level companies. These are not pyramids with regards to someone didn't ask me for a couple $1,000s that they're going to reinvest and I will get paid back double. It was nothing to do with that. It was looking at the fact that a business on a platform that's been around still today, I'm still with them today. They have a ton of history. I think they're going to be reaching their 30th year coming up soon. In the Business Bureau, AAA, licenses throughout all various different countries around the world. So they had some credibility. I did some research first. And from that point on, I said, you know what? What's it cost to join? And they say, hey, listen, it's $500. And I said, what do I get for $500? He goes, you get a website, still on today. I said, okay, you get all the licenses and agreements. Okay, great. And you get all these platforms that you're allowed to share certain products or services that they may be providing. That you can sell to anyone you like. There are some conditions and there's some rules. I said, okay, what are some of the rules? They went through them with me. And I started asking other people the same question I was asked from myself. And it turns out I ended up starting building a network. And still today, I still own the network today. And I receive a residual income and a check every single month, if I like it or not. And I haven't touched the business, called the business, or follow up with the business in almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not bad. That's sort of like if you have royalty income, that's another one that's great. That'll just keep following you.
Residual income is pretty fantastic. And it's a tough for a lot of people to swallow because a lot of them don't have a lot of trust in those type of businesses because they always say that they don't work. They don't work because you don't apply. And you got to put some effort in. I'm not a sales rep. I can't sell. I said, I didn't ask you to sell. I just asked you to ask somebody if they're looking to other ways to making some money. That's it. Everyone else did the work. I spent the first 12 years in that type of company, having somebody else do all the work, because there was beneficials for myself and for the person that was helping me. They did everything. I just pushed the people. Hi, Candace. You're looking other ways? Absolutely. What do you have for me? I'm going to show you a platform you may or may not enjoy. That's it. You got 15, 20 minutes of your time? Candace will say, yes, I'd love to have 15, 20 minutes of your time. I knew Tim would have a question about that. You'll learn a lot. Oh, can you put that up there?
Yeah,
There
I'll Tim up.
You learn a lot from MLM. Yes, you do. One of the most important, regardless of the level you take it to, is people's skills and
a lot of
no's. Yes, there are a lot of no's. And that goes a long way in conventional business. Absolutely. I've been shut down more times than I want to care to admit. But it just takes that one yes to energize you. And you know what? That happens in conventional businesses as well. Tim is absolutely right. Cisco was not Amway, okay? Just to let you know. It was another business.
I know. And Dave D was saying that he has an idea that can physically make with my previous work experience, but he has zero business experience. But that was where you were, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a great one, Dave, because I was in the airline industry, knew nothing about the airlines industry. And I thought, if I start my own, how am I going to be able to do so? Because I'd have to go through NAFTA. I'd have to go through Transport Canada. The licenses and requirements and structure and things changed in the airline industry back in, I'm sad to say, September 11th. And we all know the day and where we were at. And that changed a lot of how things were put together, your secured supply chain management. But I knew that there was a company that would be able to do it for me as a third party. Yeah, okay, they're going to make a couple of cents of me per kilo. All right, I'm okay with that. Right? Again, what's my overhead? Right? I had to find, and hopefully for you, Dave, is that I wanted to find something that I can do from my home and not from an office building. If it turned out to be at that point, great. If I can bust at the seams in my house or in my basement, which where I started, my office was next to the furnace and the water tank. I built a wall. I had no idea how to build a wall. I built a wall and put a sheet of drywall up and tried to mud it and tape it, throw some paint on it, and said, congratulations, here's my wall. There's my office. It's actually where I bought my first crypto.
Yeah.
That's where I bought my first coin, in the basement of my home, knowing nothing about crypto back in that time too as well. So, but that's originally where side hustle starts to come in. So I keep talking here. I got lots of things to talk about.
Oh, I know. You definitely do. And it's interesting. Just one statistic I had read recently is that the average millionaire has about 7 side hustles or 7 income streams. So that's kind of cool. Now, at the peak, how many streams did you have?
So I had the driving school. I had the trucking company. I had the MLM marketing company. So there was the top 3. I think I left it at that point, and then I was in the transition of the entertainment with the driving school, because I was still driving on weekends. I owned an entertainment company with 4 employees that I didn't do any work at. I just owned it. I owned the trucking company that I used through the entertainment that used my trucking company, which I took involved with. I had administration staff that used to run my driving school because I wasn't able to take the phone calls as I was teaching students how to drive and go for road tests. So yes, I had many, many stressful hats at the whole time. So I would say a total of 4 at one point.
Wow.
And it was busy. It was definitely busy, but manageable. I'm not sure how, but it was definitely manageable. So.
No, it sounds like it was a lot of work. Now, Tim is saying some days I miss the thrill of the kill. It is the greatest adrenaline rush you can get with your clothes on.
Yes. But what I have learned from having multiple streams of income, and the minute you step away from one to build up the other, it goes like this. This one goes down. Let me see if I can do that. They're going like this. One's on the side. They're going like this. There we go. I can't even draw it. So one was going up, one was going down. And so I'd race over and try to build that one back up. And I'm like, oh, great. Oh, wait, this one's, I've lost money. I got to go back and bring some money back into this one and then rush back to the other. And then that's when I started to realize, like, I need to slow down. I need to do something different, Oh,
absolutely. Now, Jill's asking, what is the number one thing you wish you knew before starting your own business? And what advice would you give someone wanting to start their own business?
The only advice okay, so what's the number one thing you wish you knew before starting your own business? How hard I think, Tim, I answered that based on Tim's question. It's just how hard it really is, how much effort you really got to put in, because you don't know when your next paycheck is coming. I really didn't. This just happened through, I learned this again just recently through this C-19 issue where we had all these lockdowns. Mm-hmm. Transport Canada asked me to stop working. There was 8 months I sat at home. Now I have other streams coming in, so it was a success. I built up enough money in bank accounts. I told myself how much I needed to put to the side for this particular things to ever happen. I need to know how long I can go before I need to go back to work. So that was a big thing. Now, the second question is, what advice would you give someone wanting to start the business? First of all, what type of business that you're thinking or wishing to start? That's a key one. Have a business plan. Not sure how to start one? Look one up. There are actually companies that will build you business plans. A business plan is, if you're looking for investments from the bank, you need a solid business plan. And you need to be able to present this business plan with an idea. And a lot of times you'll be able to get yourself some type of loan or financial even from the government itself. There's a lot of those entrepreneur startup type of, I didn't ask for any of those. I used my own money because I jumped into a business that didn't require anything besides a laptop and a cell phone. So that's where I ended up going. So I didn't need a lot of tools. I did not need a lot of equipment. A laptop runs you, about $1,000, $1,500. Cell phone's going to run you $1,000 you probably already had. So it's a little bit different for me than it was for maybe somebody else. I would love to own a coffee shop. I put investments down to own a Tim Hortons. I have a few friends right now that I have a friend in Quebec that owns 7 Tim Hortons still today. And there's one here in Milton that he owns 4 currently right now. I thank the Lord that I did not get into that business, but I was on the list at Tim Hortons.
Interesting.
And, successful business plan. I was going to use the entire equity of my home to be able to do so. So that's the difference of looking at one over the other.
Yeah, no, I can see that would actually be, I think, a fun business to be in, like whether it be coffee. Or maybe it wouldn't be fun.
The full babysitting course. You're constantly rotating staff.
That's true.
You're constantly training and hiring. So for Dave, I know Dave's like, yeah, I'd love to be able to start a business. It's Dave. It's all about what we like to start. Yeah. I've told the story a couple of times. I'd like to share it today because I have 2 beautiful children. Some of you already know that I do, and I have 11 and a 7-year-old. And my 11-year-old had come to me in September and says, "Hey, Dad, this is Lego set I'd really like you to have." I said, "Well, have or want is 2 different things." I said, "Well, what we can do is we can look at other ways of doing so." And he's like, "Hey, what's this Bitcoin you keep hearing about?" He's been hearing about our sessions and learning training. Thanks to Tim and Nancy. I appreciate you too. And they're like, "I see you talk about crypto. What is this?" And I said, "Well, I'm not super comfortable in knowing all the ins and outs. I own a little bit." And I showed them, and I said, "I've owned a little bit for some time, and it's always continued to keep growing." And I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll tell you what, let's invest a little bit in." I said, "I'll put your initial $100 in, and we'll buy Bitcoin for $100. I said, "And what we'll do is every week that you do certain goals, we'll put that ante into Bitcoin. And what Dad will do is Dad will double it as my own investment." So, okay, that's cool. The particular Lego set that he wanted was $907. So we reached that goal last week. Now, I was going to show you all today because it was expected to arrive on Friday, and it never showed up. No. I think with the storm and the weather, and so we are waiting for FedEx. So hopefully next week I'll be able to show you pieces of it. But my son was able to learn to understand what it costs to work, how to invest a little bit of his funds. He is now collecting up all his little things around the house to be able to sell, to raise money as a side hustle as of right now, in order to give me the money in order for me to invest back into crypto. He's all in at an 11-year-old. I'm not sure how to be able to put stocks in his name yet, but right now I said, okay, we'll continue with this Bitcoin thing as long as you know how to invest properly financially. We talk about, how much you need to put to a side and how much you should invest into it. So he's learning at a very young age, and he talks about it in school. And, the teachers come back and ask us, it says, why does he know so much about crypto? I don't know if he knows a lot, but he knows a fair amount now. He's learning from 11-year-old standpoint, not
Wow.
from our age, obviously. So
Well, maybe you could get him excited about an RESP.
I think so. Well, we do. We already have. We started those at a young age. The minute both my children were born, we maximize. Yes, is the word maximize that through the system. Yeah, 100%. So
Awesome.
like to go to university and college.
Now Cisco's saying that when his friend owns 10, I assume it's Tim Hortons.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
And here's Tim's advice. He said he started at the bottom entry position and ended up owning. He learned absolutely every aspect of the business. Not all are able to have that kind of boot camp, though.
Agree. I've had there's a friend, good high school friend, something to Tim's advice there. He was the mechanic in the back of the shop that was fixing snowmobiles and ATVs, and the old man was starting to show his age. And I don't know if he had family or children or whatever. I don't know the backstory to that. He says, "Hey, I'd like to own your shop." Man's like, he laughed. He says, "I don't know if you can afford it." He goes, "Give me a number."
An interesting thing with what Tim said, a lot of times when I go to work at a place, I'll hear two questions from the people I work with. One, why are you doing all this extra stuff when you don't have to? And then a little later, I'll hear, why are you getting promoted and I'm not?
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of go hand in hand. So a lot of times, always be learning. If you're at a job, even if you don't like the job, every opportunity you have to learn more about the business makes you an ideal candidate to move up within that business, even if you're not looking to own the business.
I learned something close to that with regards to when people don't think that I don't know the exact words. It's been a long time now where people would put you down. I had friends that put me down and says, why, again, sort of the same thing. Why are you wasting all your time and energy for things that are never going to happen? And when they start to happen all of a sudden now they grovel back and like, oh, why don't you share in some of the wealth? I've lost a few friends due to business a little bit, and it's more of a positive than it is a negative. But it was fun to call my friends on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock and say, "Hey, you want to do a round with me? 9 holes this morning. We can golf in an hour." He goes, "I'm working." "Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot you work." Okay, well I gotta go because I'm gonna play the 9 holes then by myself. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good business that Ken had. A juice business. He worked 2 hours every week and made 50 to 75,000 a year.
Everybody's got something.
That is an absolutely wonderful business. And then Tim is saying that's exactly how it happened for me. I got hired by the person who taught me how to drive, and then he offered the business to me 3 years later.
See, there's all kinds of different ways of looking at it and how things happen, for sure. I a lot of times say right place, right time. Sometimes that's another way to look at it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I like here what Ken is saying. You have to put a dollar amount that you are worth per hours and achieve it.
Yeah, and that's what I think I originally just started with, the fact that my goal every month, to bring it back full circle, my goal every month was to make $5,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And in the day, I mean, so we look at it. So to make $200 a day, every single day, for now, and my business does quite well. We succeed that quite frequently. But now I figured out a way. I said, listen, I would like every Friday off now. I don't want to work Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
So I want a 3-day weekend because I deserve a 3-day weekend. So now I have to backtrack a little bit and say, okay, well now I can't make $200 every day. Now I have to make $275 every day because I want Friday off. So that's so you really got it. But that wasn't the time at the beginning of how I started this. And it was a 7-day full cycle, 100 plus hours a week. It was was grueling. It was absolutely grueling.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. You have to put in the work.
Mhm.
And knowing what Ken is saying as well, knowing how much you're worth an hour, don't skimp on yourself. If you're worth, $100 an hour, then make
Mhm.
it happen. It may take time, but
But side hustle doesn't have to be where I've started, of starting your own or being your own entrepreneur or starting your own business. A side hustle can be something as very small as a knickknack, a toy, an event, something that you have hanging around the house. When's the last time a lot of us have walked around a house and say, listen, I got this juicer machine. I have a coffee machine sitting downstairs. It's been sitting there for 6 months. Why is it there? You know what? I'm going to put it on Kijiji. And I'm going to give you one because I just sold it. I had an Apple TV box. Anyone remember those things? I don't know if they still sell them. I had Gen 1 and a remote, no cable. I offered $25 for this thing. I don't know what I paid for it. It's been sitting around in a box. I listed it up, $25. Guy called me and says, he messaged me on Facebook Messenger and says, you still have it for sale? I said, yeah. He goes, would you take 20 for it? I said, I'm not going to fight you for $5. I don't really care. I don't need it. It's garbage. I don't have the cable. Okay, I'll swing by in about an hour. Knocked on the door and I said, here he goes. So you got to be transparent. You got to tell him what it is and what the product is and list it and new or used and what it has. And I said, sorry, I don't have the cable. You can probably buy one. I don't have the time and patience. I made $20 for something that was junk. Junk.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a lot of things that a lot of us here can do very easily by looking around to what you currently have.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't sell your furniture behind your parents' back or something crazy, but there are some things that may not be worth much to you that could be worth something to somebody else. So if you're looking to generate some income to invest, are you looking to generate income to pay a bill? When I got into the house thing, the one thing that I left on my paper here that I haven't shared was about I've never owned a mortgage still today. Don't know anything. I don't know what they're about. Never have, I never plan to. Now, I looked at another way of home equity. So taking the principal of the home, invest in what you need to, and then borrow the rest of it and be able to flip it around. So I have a home equity line of credit. And so that's been very beneficial for me, 100%. And actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it there because that's a whole new topic that maybe another discussion for. But can I share one thing with you, Candice?
Yeah, of course.
How does everybody spend their money? What type of funds do you use to spend money? Do you use cash? Do you use debit? Or do you use credit? A lot of times we'll use cash. I don't think a lot of people are using cash now. Well, a lot of times we used to use cash.
Yeah.
Or debit, one of the two. And all of a sudden the debit would disappear. Your bank account would go down to zero or negative. And then you switch over to the credit. And then you start using the credit. And then the bill would come in and you got to pay the credit and you're bouncing on all the different cycles. What I ended up doing before all this transaction had taken place is I still know today, and it could actually be changed now, but showing great credit history, and I don't know how much truth, and you might have a better idea on that, but I showed a lot of credit history by showing how to do so by simple transactions. So I would put $500 in my MasterCard, and a week later, I paid the $500 back off because I had the cash. I'd go back out and spend another $100, and I'd go and pay off this bill. We didn't do it online at the time, and go back and pay that bill as quickly as possible so I wouldn't have to incur the interest. And I went to realize that I was obtaining points because of it. So I started to learn. I said, wait a second, why don't I push my debit cards away? Because I'm not using those anymore, because I'm using my credit and paying it off instantaneously. And we got into online banking, and that was the end of that. Still today, I have not, and you're going to laugh here, I haven't used an ATM machine or used my debit card. Actually, I couldn't even tell you where they are. They're probably sitting in my safe. I never have held or used my debit cards in almost a decade.
No, that's smart.
Now, maybe I'd like to give you a little challenge here. I have just recently cashed my note. I actually bought it back when, just before Tim and Nancy started their channel, ended up buying some more Ethereum with it. So I ended up using my investments. Give you guys a challenge. Anyone here use cash? And if anyone actually uses cash, I want you to do a challenge on the cash. Either it's $1, $2, or $5. I used a $5 bill because it's the only bill that I was able to use, because I wanted paper. Paper is easy to hold than it was to coins, and you need a big jar for toonies and loonies. So I decided to do the $5 challenge. The $5 challenge, you can start it right now. It's almost the same as what Tim's doing with dollar cost averaging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're investing $5 into, for me, it's been Ethereum every single day at 8:45 in the evening, which my transaction went across. I'm buying $5 worth of Ethereum. So I'm changing it up. But this challenge was $5 challenge. Anytime that I use cash, whenever, so it'd either be a 10, a 20, a 50, or 100. Whatever $5 I received back, I could not spend.
Mm-hmm.
You just put a little bit away and put a little bit away. So these $5, occasionally, I had no idea how much I had at one point, to the point where it was starting to get bigger and bigger. The jar that I was putting in was full, and I would just stuff it in. And then I would get upset because I would go in and get a cup of coffee with a $20 bill, because then I started to use cash on purpose, and the retailer would give me, all these $5 bills back. And I'm like, damn it, that coffee cost me $20 today. And I was so mad, but I knew that it was going to a side hustle. It was going to an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up raising the first year $1,800. Second year, I made $1,600. That's a lot of money out of $5 bills for just stuffing them in a little jar. And I had taken all that money and I ended up buying Ethereum back in the day. So
That is awesome. I know with Wealthsimple Invest, you can sign it up so that when you're using your debit card, it will round it up to the nearest $5, and then the rest of it just gets taken into Wealthsimple and put into their auto investor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little option they have. They don't have it yet on the trade, but that would be kind of cool.
It'd be great if I use debit. I will not use my debit card. I take too many points advantages. I use the credit card. The points are huge. Running a business, as Tim, I think Tim was talking about some business, as Tim's owned a business, using my credit cards to pay for various different things. I pay for truck freight on credit card. And the points that I receive, I had free groceries for a year with President's Choice. I got rid of them. I've switched over. Every year I do something different. I did a TD Visa points card. I've racked up 500,000 points.
Nice.
I haven't been able to use it yet. And then now I got rid of that because I don't need any more points right now. I'm not traveling. So I switched over. As of right now, I'm using Amazon, which I've just switched back to ShakePay. So I switched to ShakePay. I don't know. I'm really liking what ShakePay's doing, but I still have to have a credit card because I do need all the digits as of right now. So I'm using an Amazon card, and Amazon's been sending me $100 to $200 every month.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. I get to buy all kinds of cables I don't need to my house every day. It's been great.
Ford says I refurbish and flip furniture as a side hustle, and that's smart. There's a lot of people that they go to yard sales every weekend just because there's so many deals that they can buy and then sell on like Marketplace. So you can make a nice side hustle doing that.
I looked at my neighbor is a carpenter by trade. Fantastic Portuguese individual. He can do things that my hands cannot. And I said, are you ever interested in doing some side business? He's like, yeah, whatever costs. I said, I'll tell you what, I can get you the business. I just need you to do the work. I guess I started a new business because I've got him busy weekend after weekend. I said, you tell me what weekends you want and I'll fill them up. And I know a few people are looking for some stuff. And I put a few $100s on top of his original cost. And just because I'm connecting the two people. Now, friends and family, that's a different story. I would never do that. But for people that have acquaintances or giving me information because of his work's been so good, he's now seriously looking about starting his own business, afraid to get into it, but thinking about starting it. I said, you really got to. And I've tried to explain to him the business association to that. I said, why don't you just start a business so that you can buy all the tools that you need and rent them out as a tax deductible?
Interesting. And now Jill's asking, have you ever invested in any of the companies that do shared real estate? And I think she's talking about
Mm-hmm.
fractional investment?
I have not yet, and I'll give you why, Jill. The last 3 years, I have been. I recently, 3 years ago, I separated from my wife. We're in great terms. It's been fantastic. My kids are. We've figured it all out, and so I had to. I'm still. We went from not having any debt and owning our homes to having a small little piece in our own home here. So my objective in the next couple of years is to take care of the rest of the fees at this particular house. I have a I actually do have a little mortgage, but it's really, really, really tiny, and I just got to get that paid off. So I got a couple of years before that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at this! I love the PC points.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
And here's a great point that Ken's making. He's putting 5 to 6K a month on credit and paying it off at the end of the month, and his credit is just skyrocketing.
Very good. Yeah. I love using credit. I love tap tap tap. Shake Pay. Obviously, I like the little satoshis that come in every month, but I am missing my points. From Amazon hasn't paid me in a couple of months, so I'm weighing out my options here. But yeah, it's either one or the other. So
Yeah. And Dave's saying I have over $1,000 saved in change for a rainy day.
mm-hmm.
One thing I've been preaching for a long time is that emergency fund. And, and just from the story that Gary was telling us earlier, when the illness sort of stopped his work, he had a nice emergency fund. So he did fine. So the importance of that can never be overestimated.
Before we sold our last home, we had 18 months of savings.
Mm-hmm.
So we could live for 18 months without skipping a beat. Now, we were very fortunate enough because when we bought our first home in the market, so we didn't, it was a luck of the draw. It wasn't anything else. We just, you got to, if you can get in, get in. I have so many people that tell me, I'm waiting. Stop waiting. Stop waiting, people. If you can get in, get in. We got in our first home. It went from 2 to, we made, ended up buying for 2, 5 years later, selling it for 5.
Mm-hmm.
We built a custom built home in 2014 for 500,000. We put 100,000 into it, moved in at a 600,000 valuation. We just recently sold that for 1.5 million. So, so you can see where we had some extra money put in around because we were continuing working. Both of us were full-time employers. Working for myself, my wife was working for a legitimate business she did really well with, and she's still there today. And we were just dumping into the funds. So it was just stockpiling at that point. And so very lucky. And that's, it is what it is. So,
yeah. And I mean, and going back to Jill's mention of fractional real estate, that could be an option if you can't afford to jump in full with a full property.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think if any of you guys watch Brandon Beavis, I think he did a video, it was either yesterday or the day before, where he was actually interviewing some people from one of these fractional companies. And it sounded very interesting, actually. So worth checking out if you're interested in that.
Maybe I'll give you something else, maybe for some of you, for anyone here, because I know a lot of us in this community, I'm noticing some of the names. So if you're using the Shake Pay credit card, that lovely tap is a starting conversation. I've been to a few locations and they asked me, which way would you like to pay? I said, Bitcoin, please. They're like, we don't have Bitcoin. I'm like, oh, what I do? Well, how do you do so? I said, just hit your credit button. I'll show you. Ting. It's like, that is really cool. I said, yeah, I get little Satoshis back. He goes, what is a Satoshi? A little piece, little fraction of a Bitcoin that continues to pile up. I said, eventually, maybe I'll make a full Bitcoin, over the years and time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how do I get into that? Funny you ask. Here's my referral code.
Not a bad. That's a good side hustle right there.
Right there, everybody. It turns back profit. So I'm starting to do well with that now. My referral code has been working overtime a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, Flippo says, I have side hustle. I turn $4 to 10 and sometimes 20.
Very good.
He's a magician.
Nice. My 11-year-old side hustle, I'll tell you what his is, $1.37. That's what it costs to buy a Hot Wheel.
Oh.
He puts it on Facebook Marketplace for $5.
Oh, wow. And I bet you he's selling them.
We sell them like hotcakes. I got boxes and boxes downstairs because he takes his There he goes at 4 to 10, takes the 10 and makes it into 20, and then reinvests that back into the market and starts again and doubles that. He's done very well with it. So.
Oh, absolutely. And Riley's just mentioning here, yeah, there are a few companies out there offering fractional real estate, was looking into that, and peer-to-peer lending, which is another one too.
I would look into those. I have looked into them in the commercial space because I think that's where it is, where some of the banks that I've seen a few banks that you can have fractional pieces of the pie. And I think it depends on the business and the structure of it. It'd be something to look into. But again, you know, if you got $50,000, $60,000 laying around, because I think that's the initial investment and it goes up from that point. You know, I don't know if that would be my first intentions. I think I'd really start looking into where can I buy property for myself and where can I move to and can I relocate, you know?
Interesting. And I knew we couldn't get through a show without Ken mentioning Satama in some way. But Seda Realty will offer dividends in the form of Seda Realty coins. I know Ken was mentioning that yesterday on a show, and I'm going to take a look at that because it does sound very interesting.
Yeah, definitely something I didn't catch it on his show. I watched a small little bit of it yesterday, but I'll have to rewind and try to watch that piece again.
Yeah. Well, he didn't really mention too much about it, but he just mentioned that it was something that yeah, Jill and myself should look into, and we're definitely going to do that. And we got Karen McDonald in the house. Hi, Karen. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, Karen.
And she's saying hi to Ken. Now, Karen is, I believe, she lives in San Francisco. She's one of our American.
Cold. I was shocked about San Francisco. I flew into San Fran, took the train up to San Jose, had a business conference up there. And then I stayed back down one night in San Fran. And man, I ended up having to buy a sweater. I didn't realize how cold it was in San Francisco at the time.
Wow. That sounds kind of interesting.
Well, San Diego.
San Diego.
Yeah.
I at least got the sand part right. But yeah, San Diego is, well, man, if it's cold in San Francisco, it's probably cold in San Diego too.
No, I don't think so, is it?
Well, it's hard to say. It depends on what's the way the system is working on the coast, but that is kind of cool. Awesome. Now with investing, when you actually got into when you came into this community, were you already investing at that point, or did you sort of?
Oh yeah, I've been investing a long time from there. I think back in 2007 when we hit the recession, the Canadian dollar rise, and we were about just above par. And a close friend of mine says, "Hey, you know, you should be buying some hard silver." I said, I started laughing. I'm like, first of all, I didn't know where to obtain silver. I didn't know how to get silver. He goes, "I can get you silver." I'm like, really? From where? Like, I'm intrigued now because I'm like, I always thought. I actually didn't even know where silver and gold came from. And this is the same. I'm still friends with him today. He's actually one of my customers, a longtime customer. And he also asked me to get into, he goes, "Do you know what this Bitcoin is?" And I'm like, "No, never heard of it." He's like, "You got to get into it." Now, laugh all you want, everybody, because it is embarrassing. But I did own one Bitcoin at one point in time.
Nice.
And then I sold Bitcoin as fast as I owned it. So I didn't make any money. I think I made $100 on it. I'm like, I'm out. Get me out. I made $100. Get me out. Not knowing where. You didn't know back then. You know, I knew nothing about anything to do with that. And I ended up buying. I ended up just selling. I sold it about 2-3 weeks ago. I owned Cardano, and I owned a lot of it. I ended up buying a lot of people know this. I bought 4,000 coins for only a few $100.
Wow.
And that was the end of it. I only just re-looked into it on the Tim and Nancy Dancer show. So that was nice. I found some extra money, was just kicking around. I ended up selling it, and now I took a little bit of profit. I could have took a lot, but I took a little bit of profit, and I moved the rest back into Matic. So I'm into.
Okay.
But silver and gold, I owned gold for a very, very short time, in and out within a week. But silver, I still hold today. I hodl silver. I love silver. I will buy silver. Um, Silver is interesting. You can purchase silver. I didn't realize you can purchase silver almost anywhere. Banks will sell you silver. There's all kinds of different types of silver. I know Ryan and I have gone into that over the a little bit of, which one is better than the other and which one, So I've sold a little bit of it, and I've kept a lot of some of the other ones that have had some serious value too, and still today have a lot of value. And I ended up starting to buy silver when the dollar was above par, and I was buying silver for less than $7 an ounce.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's very good.
Yeah.
So when the dollar started to dip back down to almost par, then I almost started to just slowly push that away. So a lot of it is a great question for the group and yourself. It's, how do you invest? When's the right time to invest? When's the right time to get out? When's the right time to get in? And a lot of that is to do with the research, and a lot of your information that you share on your channel shares a lot of that insight and that research. It's not about listening to others. You take some advice from that, but a lot of it is to do your own diligence and information. And a lot of it is to trust others as well. If I only know Candace based on the channel and based on the group. And so we're starting to build a little bit of credibility. We can agree on that. But if Candace just came up to me out of the blue and say, listen, you know what? You really got to get into Bitcoin. I'm like, Candace, I barely known you a week. Like, what are you trying to sell me here? But if Candace and I knew each other for years on end, and Candace said, listen, I'm getting this hot thing I'm really interested in. I think I'd like you to look into it a little bit with me. I'd definitely be 100% into it. But I'm a yes person. as they call it, a red apple. I'm all about, I want to know, give me more. Can I make something from it? Is it worth my value? I'm going to do my homework. That pushes you, that's one of those brown, green, or red apple type of styles. So I'm a red, always yes, yes, yes. But I go down to green once in a while to give me some more information first. But I'm still a yes. I want to jump in, but I want to make sure it's right for me. But I'm never a brown. I'll never say no to. I would never say no to Candace, or never say no to majority of people in this group that, hey, I got something that may be interesting to you. I'm willing to listen. But I'm a listen guy. Not everybody may be in this room.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and I'll say this till I'm red in the face. Even if I tell you in one of my videos, this is a great stock to look at, that's what I mean. It's a great stock to look at. I'm not saying go out and buy it. But, take a research, take a look at it, see if it does make sense for you. Make up your own mind, do your due diligence. Because that's what a lot of people, I see a lot of, especially newer investors, they come in and they've got YouTubers from here, over there. They're all saying something completely different. And some of these people are like, oh my God, I just bought a bunch of Bitcoin. This one's telling me to sell. Oh, I got to sell. This one's telling me to buy. And they're losing everything in transaction fees, and they're just getting very combobulated. So, I'll go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I've just been thinking of just a bunch of things you're saying, and it just brings me back and thinks of a few things. It's like wants and needs, what is something that you really want? What is something that you really need? I have a lot of wants, but they're wishful wants. And if I want it now, I have to figure out a way to earn it. And yeah, I'll leave it as that. I'm losing it by the end of the night now. Now I hear my kids. I think that's what it is. I'm hearing my kids in the background, guys. So I'm like trying to listen to them at the same time. And
yeah, there was the light behind you came on, and then
yeah. So I'm thinking my thoughts, and I'm hearing them running back and forth. So I think they're checking to see if I'm done or not.
Probably. But guys, we got about 15 minutes left. So if you guys have any questions that are burning in your pocket, or you're waiting until the last minute, start dropping them for us now. Because it's been, I think, a great conversation and really a lot of insight on the way that Gary has handled it. First question is from a bot.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's interesting already. Even the bots got questions. Like, great. Red wasn't my color. I ended up going with gray instead. But, I think my biggest, one of the interesting things that I don't drive. I drive a vehicle that I have passion for. I bought a vehicle that I like. I didn't buy something that somebody else told me to buy. But I've never owned any luxury vehicles. Never bought a Porsche. Never. Would I like to own one? Absolutely, I'd like to own one. But it's not my dream cars. For me, a pickup truck is my dream vehicle. Not the great on fuel economy, and I'm starting to second guess my decision at this point. And I think that's one of the places that I'm bleeding a lot of resources and a lot of money. A lot of money is coming out of my pocket for something that sits on the driveway 6 out of 7 days these days, and trying to figure out, is it worth me continuing to keep it, or is it worth me getting rid of it and buying something a little bit more useful, a little more practical? But I find a lot of times people spend a lot of things on. Tim said it well. I don't know what show it was. Tim said it well. People buy a lot of things that want to show who they are, who they may fake to be. I mean, I'm still wearing the same black T-shirt I owned 3 years ago. I think Tim said the same thing. I wear my clothes until they get to a point where I now can afford to take the socks that have holes in it, and I can chuck those in the garbage and buy a new pair of socks. I've got that far that I can afford, but anything with a hole in it, it'll go. But other than that, we're going to still continue to wear it. I have nothing with a logo. Well, I have a few things with logos on it, but not because it was just because it was on sale, not because I paid retail for it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those people who they have the best everything and they're all very flashy about it. If you could look at their finances behind the scene, you'll find they're probably broke.
I'd love to be on the other side of that bank teller.
Yeah.
For a while, when that card gets swiped by and they're holding their Louis Vuitton bag and they went negative 1,800, huh? And the guy comes in with holes in his shorts and and you can see his toe through his shoes, and it's like, sir, you ever looked at other ways to invest your money? Like, no, it's fine. Meanwhile, he's got $200,000 or $300,000 in his personal account.
Yeah. It's true. That's the thing. If you try to keep up with the Joneses, you're gonna keep up with them in a broke area. But
yeah. So my side hustle this year, I have 2 side hustles while people are still trying to get some questions in. So my first side hustle, I took the advice from Tim and decided to do the $5 challenge through Ethereum. So I do that each and every day. So that's it's quite interesting because it's really starting to creep up a little bit. So that's exciting to see how that's going to end up turning out at the end of the year. So I'm super excited for that one. I decided, I don't know how long I'm going to go with it, but I've decided to no coffee outside. So people do give me some gift cards, and I do have a couple of gift cards left hanging around. So I'm appreciated for people that do send me some stuff, and there are a few people that still do like me. So I put all my gift cards onto my Tim Hortons app, but I have yet to use any of my own money yet this year for Tim Hortons coffee. So I said no coffee out unless someone else is buying it. So I've had lots of people say, "Hey, you want a coffee?" I'm like, absolutely, but I won't go out and get it. And I've been profiting in January. I saved $70 just in January. Just to let you know. So that was $70 extra I put back in my pocket. Well, that's my challenge that I did to myself this year. I tried to pick something in the calendar year, something's different, something that I can achieve or goal. Is there something you can live without? Is there something, maybe a swear jar? Maybe keep it simple. Throw a buck in or a quarter every time you drop an F-bomb. Ryan would be broke, but I love it. If you watch the after shows, people.
Yes. He would lose a lot of money.
Smoking. Let's look at this. If you're a pack a day, why don't you calculate how many you smoke in a day? There are still people that smoke. Count how many you smoke in a day. -2, -2, -2, -3. How we got to weed it off, but tell yourself, this is what I have. I have 5 at the end of the day. I got to figure out how to enjoy these 5 all at once, scattered across, hour on the hour, every meal, only at evenings, must have one in the morning. What's your routine? Look at something else to reduce some costs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like I know some of my side hustles. Like every so often I get an idea for a T-shirt design. I throw it up on Redbubble, and then it's there it's there forever. And if somebody in Australia decides, oh, that's a cool design, I just get $5.
Beautiful.
So you get a little bit here and there. You're not going to make a living from it, but You don't need to. I don't have to do any work for, the occasional $5 that just comes in.
Okay, well, that's a great one, Candace, because you can look at that and say, listen, when we reach up to a certain goal, they say, if we make it to a $60 or $100, well, that $100, I'll give you another one that I used to do with that. The $100 should be, okay, that's dinner out. So I used to get a few tickets back in the day. I haven't received a traffic violation in almost 20 years, but that's because I'm a driver instructor now. It's crazy. But I remember getting a ticket and I told myself, if I'm able to get this ticket off, the amount of the ticket is cash that goes back to my pocket. So I used to say it's already spent. So I used to do, I forget some of the things. If I remember them, I'll write them down and one of these days and share with. But I used to figure out different ways that if I already spent the money and I was able to get that back or not had to spend it, that was free cash.
Mm-hmm.
And I could do whatever I want with it. So what did they say? I would like to own an Alberta rig rocket someday. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Rig rocket. It sounds awesome. I want one. I don't know what it is, but it's a rig. Dave, I want one. I don't know what it is though.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be fun. And Jill's right on the mark here. There's lots of opportunities for people who make things, including digital products, that you can make it once and sell it multiple times.
A camera. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, so listen, a lot of people. I was just looking. So I got 2 cameras right here sitting on. I display a lot of my old vintage cameras, and to use a camera to be able to take some photos, you can ask somebody that has children. Say, listen, you know what? How would I take some photos of your children? If you like what it is, then pay me what you think they're worth. For me, it's exposure. No pun intended there, but it's exposure is what you're trying to obtain from something that you may be able to go home and digitally remaster them and configure them and then submit them back. Right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too with photos, if you're an avid photo bug, and you live near some incredible scenery, there's a lot of different photo sites where you can upload it for stock photos, and when people buy those stock photos, you make a little bit of money.
Wow. I mean, we're coming up with a million things. Big jacked up. Oh, that's called a big jacked up Dodge truck. Oh, I drive a Silverado, Dave, so don't get mad at me. Dave, we can make that goal happen. You just got to figure it a way. Look at how much it costs. What do you need to put down? How do I go ahead and do so? There's many different ways, and it all depends on your finances and a bunch of other questions. But
Tim Carroll has a 52-week challenge. Save from 52 the first week, then the next 51 to 1 every week.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I love challenges. That's one of the things. Like we've mentioned the dollar cost average into crypto going on over on the Tim and Nancy Danter channel. If you guys don't know about Tim and Nancy Danter's channel, in my links down below, there is a link to their channel. I'm usually on there every Wednesday night on their Crypto Night in Canada show, and a great place to learn about crypto and great place to get involved in this little challenge too.
I mean, thanks for having me, Candace. It's been a blast. I've had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Jill saying, thanks, Gary and Candace, for a great show. Remember to hit like. Absolutely, folks. Hit the like button. Any of you aren't subscribed, hit the subscribe button while you're there too. Once I get to 1,000 subscribers, then this turns into an income stream.
There you go. I haven't got into. I've thought about it. I don't know if I have the time. I want to. We're not there.
You never know. I mean,
what's another gig, right?
What's another gig? A little bit more work. You're not shy of work. Guys, we got about 7 minutes left. In case you have any last questions.
Let's get them in, people. Let's get them in.
I know. You never know. A lot of times people will throw some really good ones like in the last minute, and then we end up going an extra 5-10 minutes.
That's how it always works. Yeah.
That's how it always works.
Be gentle on me, guys. Or people. I have my kids here, so you can see the lights. I gotta shut them down soon.
Great show, Candace. Always great to see you, Gary. I'm late, but I made it. Awesome. And Journey is one of our fan favorites. He was on the show not that long ago, a few weeks ago. So
that's right. That's right.
If you guys like the VV and the comics, that show is up and on the site, so you can take a check out on that. Dave D, thanks. Candace and Gary, awesome show. All right.
I think at
great.
the end of the day, talking about, learning something, it's look at the start small. Start with a wish and make that wish. Yes, something's coming up, a birthday, Valentine's, and excitement. I don't know, name anything. And, how do I go about and paying for that?
Absolutely. And one of the things I said, and I actually think I said it in one of my shorts as well, is it's you can't look at, if you want to be a millionaire, you're not going to just start doing 7 side hustles tomorrow. But if you've got a job, which is one hustle right there, just look at add one extra hustle. And then once you've got that set up, then look at adding another. And just do it one step at a time, baby steps to get yourself where it is that you want to go. Now, Mashuk here is saying, great show. I learned a lot. Thank you. Thank you for showing up, Mashuk. We always like to see you.
I do want to clarify, like I said, these are things that have worked for myself and may not have worked or will work with any of you guys. As I said, I'm a workaholic. I enjoy working. I just like to, try different things. As I said, I'm a big shiny red apple. I'm a yes to everything. Let me dabble into that any way that I can generate a little bit of income to be able to give me more time freedom. And for me, that was very important to me. Having 2 kids and being a single father, it's, more time is very valuable. I figured out working for myself, I've set my hours from, 10 to 3. So my kids, I get time to take my kids to school. I get time to pick up my kids from school. I'm home most evenings. They know that, dad's got to work a couple hours in the evening, a couple times a week. And then I always make sure that I have my Friday, Saturday, Sundays off. But I worked all these hours to obtain this. And it's been a bittersweet now at this point.
All right. And Shirab is asking, is there any after-hour show tonight? Ken has a show. I believe I saw it scheduled on for 10 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, about 10 o'clock tonight, yeah. I might be on it. I might actually, if I get my kids to bed on time, I might be on for the first hour and a half.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Now, in our last few minutes, since we don't have any questions, small little change coming up on the channel. All the content, same amount. I'm just going to be moving my Thursday videos to Wednesdays. So small little change. But you're still going to get, in case you guys haven't noticed, I've been doing a short a day. So I'm going to keep that pace up, 1 short a day. So there'll be brand new content from me absolutely every day.
You're busy, Candace. You're busy.
I know. So, and here's another little thing. I wasn't sure if I was going to share this yet or not, but I am looking at adding a second small stream in the week. It's going to be a gaming stream I'm going to pick a metaverse game and I'm going to play it.
Wow.
And I'm going to use that stream. You guys can come and watch if you want. That'll be awesome. It probably won't be starting for at least another week. And then I'm going to use the footage from it to make some metaverse videos from it. Nice. I figured might as well, open that up. So if anybody wants to come along and see what it's like in the metaverse, that will be coming up soon. So that's pretty exciting.
Is Roblox metaverse?
Yeah, they are.
I watch my kids play that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Part of me, I don't know if I think right now I got Star Atlas, Sandbox. There's a couple, and maybe even Magic. So one of those 3 I'm thinking just to see.
Don't go anywhere.
No.
What? I got something important.
So yeah, it'll be one of those 3. So I think that's going to be kind of fantastic. And here's the beautiful thing. If anybody wants to join in, I'm open to that too. You could always come over to the Sandbox and we could do a few things. How to win friends and influence people.
If I can promote any book for somebody to read, this is the book you need to read. And I've read this book more times than I know how to count. Love this book. Read this book cover to cover. Probably smells old at this point now.
Yes, if we're promoting books.
I paid $8.99 for it, by the way. So it's worth twice this now.
Next book I'm reading right now is Option Trading for Dummies.
Yeah.
Now, the book doesn't really have a hole in it. That's a green screen doing that.
Gotcha.
But the Dummies line of books, folks, are really, really good. So, and this book actually got it in my affiliate links down below if anybody is interested in learning a little bit about it. So I want to do a few options and videos in that nature as well in the future. So I'm just going to quickly read that book just to increase my level of knowledge before I start.
This was a game changer book for me, and for somebody that's intimidated to start a business or not sure how to speak to individuals, this is the book to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. One of the greatest books, and it was a game changer for me. So I think we could probably do a whole hour about books. I got a whole slew of them that I've read. There's a couple of crazy ones in there as well that are really important. Now I read biographies. I don't want to tell you what I'm reading right now, but another great book, Gun Ho, another great one. Who Moved My Cheese? Another great book.
Yes, the cheese ones.
Oh,
there's also another good one is My Iceberg is Melting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who Moved My Cheese is I read that in 45 minutes because that's all it takes. That's how thin and quick that book is. Man, you walking out looking at people completely different. Right. And I should do short videos just on books.
Yeah. Or next time we have you on, maybe that's what we'll do. We'll just do a book night.
Yeah, I think so.
Bring in a book.
I have to go back and read it again because I wouldn't mind reading that. I should leave it out. Maybe I'll read that tonight instead of. No, I won't read tonight. Tonight I'm on the show, and then that's it. I'm gonna have a cold beer with Ken. So Ken, if you're still in the room, I'll join you for a cold beer when I put my kids to bed, and then that's it. I'm down in Port Dover tomorrow.
Absolutely. And our last comment of the night, Dave D, of course. I like your short videos. Lots of great information. Thank you, Dave. Everybody, it's been wonderful having you here tonight. Thank you, of course, to Gary for coming by and imparting a lot of your knowledge.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Everybody, we'll see you next time.
See ya.